Row for Show Productions presents Brothers Being Brothers, a lifestyle podcast. Welcome to the Brothers Being Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Hamilton Jr. I got my guys, K-Rob and Mac Ronay with me. Fellas, why don't y'all go ahead and say what's up to the people?
What's going on? It's your boy Mac Ronay here with the same mess, just a different day.
Yo, what up? What up? This is K-Rob. It's coming to you, baby. Brothers Being Brothers podcast, episode 2. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Episode dose, and we are so blessed and so happy to be here with you. First, we got to give honor and thanks to the Lord above for blessing us with the gift, talents, and the resources to be able to do this podcast. Fellas, first off, before we start, I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Chris Flanagan. God bless his soul. We lost him earlier this week, a childhood friend of mine. I met Chris back when I was 14, freshman in high school, and we lost him this week. So I want to send my thoughts and prayers and condolences to his family, and our sympathies to his family. So sad deal, but to be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord. So it's a sad deal, but at the same time, no more sickness for Chris. So thoughts and prayers to his family.
Yeah, definitely thoughts and prayers, man. I mean, I don't know him, but I mean, it's the same thing for everyone. Anybody can get it, you know what I mean? So everyone has people who's going to be mourning for a loved one, so definitely thoughts and prayers out to that family, man.
Yeah, man. Ditto to both of what you guys said. Major thoughts and prayers to anybody dealing with any sickness, and especially COVID with the pandemic. Like as we touched on last week, is definitely a tragic. For anybody to lose their life due to it is definitely heartfelt. So condolences to that family, man. Prayers to you when you go to see him. Just praying your strength too, bro. Rochelle.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. All right, guys. Last week was the first episode of the podcast, and we got so caught up in everything that happened with the Capitol that and it's more on me. I'm gonna take the L on this one. I didn't really do a great job of.
No, we all gonna take the L. We all gonna take the L on that.
Ride together, die together.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Bad boys for life.
Yes, sir. Brother, bad boys for life. So, one thing we wanted to do first off, starting the show, is really kind of go more in depth about what this show is about, what we want to accomplish with the show. And, one thing that we talk about a lot in our personal conversations between us three when we're getting stuff together for the show is we talk about accountability and responsibility. And King brought something to me yesterday, and it said accountability is important, but so too is responsibility. And, one of the things that we talk about a lot in life is, we all know that life throws out its lemons. Life throws out its curveballs. But at the same time, as hard as life can get at times, we do have to have a certain level of accountability and a certain level of responsibility to push through in life, whether it's just for ourselves or people that's within our sphere of influence, whether it's family, kids, whatever. We all have a certain level of accountability and responsibility to do what we need to do. So one thing we wanted to kind of do was lay out the core values and what we want to accomplish with this podcast. So I've said a whole lot. I want to get King and Drew's input on this particular aspect, because I know they have some great input as far as the direction of the podcast.
Well, you go ahead, King.
Somebody asked last week, so I had a good friend of mine asked, he's like, so because it says brothers being brothers, are we aiming it at only brothers, or what is our aim? And my answer to it is it's not aimed at brothers or guys or Black men in general. I think the thought brother is a Black man being a brother figure to anyone who's listening or anyone who cares to eventually ask us questions or get to know our perspective. It's basically us giving a perspective to help render maybe better thoughts, tough conversations, tough perspectives to just hopefully help somebody. I think for me, that's how I envision the podcast, but with also like some fun, laughter,
Yeah.
the back and forth between men that make things funny. It's kind of like a glorified barbershop talk. And for anybody who's been to a barbershop, it's like minus the uh, derogatory stuff and all of the positive things that we think of as a barbershop with some laughter, thought provoking, with idea provoking, with like strategy provoking concepts that we can all bring to the table to kind of help, just try to help somebody make life a little better, because nobody has all the information, all the game. But if we can share it to help, then like I feel like being helpers one to another is definitely one of the most best things we can do on life. I definitely think that's the way God envisioned it. And so, as a follower of God, Jesus, I would like to at least render some kind of help to people that's not, $15.99 a month, $100 a month, and I understand paying for certain things, but
Right.
sometimes it's cool to like just actually give out free game, because if I know it, I can still apply, because application is still going to be the driving force to information you get. So not to ramble on, but that's kind of where it is from my perspective.
No, absolutely, absolutely. You took a lot of words out of my mouth, but
Sorry, man. I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
No, you
no,
good, man.
you good.
That's what we're here
But
for.
no, that's awesome. But the concept, of the show is just being a brother, and anybody can have a brother. Anybody, even if it's not a blood brother, brother in arms, a brother is a brother. Period.
That's good.
And that's what we want to focus on, trying to be the bigger brother. Because if you think about it, a bigger brother is going to go through situations before the little brother. So if I can give you the positive out of my situation without you getting a negative, then that's a win for me.
That's
I want to
good.
give you the positive. Everything we talk about on the show, I think and I feel is that we've all been through it. Everything we talk about, one of us has been through it,
Yeah.
if not
Right.
all of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
to be able to give the wisdom of or even just the wisdom to be successful and be positive in that situation that someone who's going through right now, you know, I think is a uplift, and I think it's just super cool to be super positive and bring that positivity and just giving lessons to um so people don't have to stumble and fall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and at the end of the day, because I mean, mistakes and learning curves, experiences, that's all part of life. And
Oh yeah.
Yep.
piggyback on what Drew said, I mean, that's basically what we're doing is we're telling y'all about our experiences and things that we went through. And like you said, if it's something that we've talked about on this show, guarantee at least one of us has been through it. And I guess the main thing we want to achieve with this show is we want to be a positive influence. We want to be a positive light
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a dark, dark world. And as we've seen, especially over the last 4 years, this world can be a dark place at times. And one of the things we would like to achieve with that is just being a refuge. And even if you just come by to just hear us be, a clown for a little bit, or even if you just come by just to hear us, talk about some experiences, because I can guarantee from my end there's going to be some episodes where I talk about some embarrassing things,
Oh yeah.
but from my embarrassment, somebody out there can learn a valuable lesson, especially when it comes to the dating department, this brother. But anyway,
Stop it, man. Stop it.
but one thing with a show like this, and one thing we do gotta, I guess, kind of talk about is, eventually we want to be able to get our audience members like questions, comments, feedback, input.
Engaged. Yeah.
Yes, we want to get that engagement going. So now
Mhm.
we do have an Instagram page. You can find us on Instagram at Brothers Being Brothers Podcast, and it's spelled exactly like the logo is BROTHAS Brothers Being BEING Brothers BROTHERS Podcast at Brothers Being Brothers Podcast on Instagram. You follow us. Hit us up in the DMs because it goes down in the DMs. If you have any questions,
Lord.
comments, well, I better be careful when I say that.
Please,
Yeah,
yeah,
if you have
clean
any
that up a
questions or
little
Oh
bit. Just
comments,
no,
clean
no,
clean that one up a little bit.
it's
uh,
good banter. It's good
yeah, it's good
banter.
banter. Good banter. Don't send no crazy pics. You know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to get in no trouble. Questions, comments, feedback, input, and if those questions and comments is good, we would love to answer them on this podcast. So
Yeah, definitely.
one thing that we really kind of want, I guess, transitioning into our second bit, fellas, is when we talk about accountability and responsibility, and the things that we deal with in life. Mental health has been something that has been brought up, that's been magnified really since COVID really took the world by storm. And well, as far as America goes, March of last year, but as far as the world goes, right about December, January of 2020 is when COVID really kind of started to hit. So mental health,
2019,
yeah,
November
yeah,
of 2019,
yeah.
kind of.
That's really when it
Yeah.
I guess started to mushroom and explode. So with COVID, mental health has been one of the things that has been magnified. So we kind of wanted to talk about the mental health effects of COVID. And Drew, I know you had a really interesting perspective on it because you've got kids. You've been having to teach them, through virtual learning or at home learning. And
Right.
I know you talked about, some of the experiences and the lessons that you've learned. So, really kind of want to get your input from this particular perspective. How has it been for you as a parent dealing with um, the mental health effects of COVID and at home learning? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, so it's so many parts to that that's going on, especially with COVID and mental health, because every day you're forced to live a different reality.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? From unemployment to working from home to homeschooling to where you can't have physical contact with your friends or your families. It's so much that goes into that, and it can snowball super easily because of all those different aspects of it. Now, for me, so I work from home. I've worked from home for many years. I sell online. So when the kids go to school, I get out. I can go to my thrift stores. I can go to my garage sales, my yard sales, or whatever have you. I need to go. That's my me time. That's gone. I don't have that anymore. So now it's a constant of me here with the kids teaching them online, homeschooling, which just the homeschooling is so frustrating at times because it's new for everyone. It's an adjustment for everyone. And with their my main thing is with the kids is the attention span for them to be on that computer. I'm constantly, I can't do what I need to do over here with my business because I got to constantly be over here with them to make sure they're engaged and they are in focus. And then on top of that, you got you you got assignments that are just packing up, or assignments that are they're just piling up on them, and they're just giving them, well, these assignments are here, so just when you get done or you get ready to go here. So they're giving these kids all this freedom to do it whenever they want to, which you can't do that for my kids anyway. My kids need structure. They need to know, well, we're going to do this time, this time, and this at this time. So now I, like many other parents, probably have to go in and put that structure in, you know and now looking at some of these assignments, I ain't been in no one school for years. So now I got to go on YouTube and figure and spend me about 30, 40 minutes to figure out one problem to show them how to do it.
Try to figure
And
out the
it just,
Pythagorean theorem.
a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so yeah, so man, so I mean that can be heavy and weigh a lot on anyone. You know what I mean? It weighed a lot on me. I remember probably about a month ago, man. I was helping the kids with school, and I had to go pick up a shipment. So I was like, you know what? I told the kids, let's load up in a van. I took my mobile hotspot so they can continue to do their work online. They're in there. They're saying, oh, the hotspot's not working and this and that, which it was. It's just they didn't want to do the work because we're on the road. That was frustrating. I missed my pickup, so I had to pay more on on my goods I was picking up. I was so frustrated. They're bickering back and forth. We get back to the house. I don't have any time for me to get away from all this. So it's just so I told my wife as soon as she got off work, I was like, look, take your children to your mama house. Take your kids away from me right now. I mean, just say you need your personal time, your personal space. I think that it's very important to set up some time for yourself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Especially since everything is so new and everything is just a different norms, these different realities we're living, that even before, when you had a little bit of time to yourself, now you have no time to yourself. It's You have to make that time because everything is just so crazy now, and everything is just so much pressure. You know what I mean? And then there's people who already had, who was already dealing with mental health or even just depression right before COVID. So now times that times 100 for them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Right.
it's just crazy, man. And but with me saying all that, those are the problems. But I would like to try to give a little bit of solutions. Like some of the stuff I do, I try to stay working out. You know what I mean? I try to keep my body in movement because I don't want to just stay still, because depression will creep up on you. You got to stay busy. You got to take breaks from stressful situations. If something's stressing you out, it's okay to walk away from that situation for a little bit to give your time, to give yourself time to calm down and relax. I mean, you reach out to friends and family. I mean, it's a phone call. Talk to someone. People are getting so depressed, man, that they're taking their lives, and that hurts. That hurts me. I don't know some of these people, but that hurts. For someone not to have anybody to talk to and feel so much pressure on them that they take their own lives is just that. I'm just dumbfounded by that, and I feel like I'm talking too much. So one of y'all jump in, please.
No, you good.
No,
You
it
good.
was good information. Me, study guy. So I found some on Google. It says mental illness occurs from the interaction of multiple genes or and other factors such as stress, abuse, or a traumatic event, which can trigger or influence an illness in a person who has an inherited susceptibility to it. And basically, what I feel like that is saying that, like you said, Drew, when things happen a certain way that is sometimes out of our control,
Out of the norm, yeah.
yeah, out of our norm or out of our control, we tend to we can easily it can not, because I don't want to say we as if that's something we're just trying to do, but I think like sometimes the situation can definitely have a little more power than we want to even say it has. You know what I'm saying?
Keep going,
So
King.
I'm
I
not
gotta I gotta handle this deal right quick. Keep going. You good. You good.
okay. So for me, it's like just trying to figure out the best way to get a clear understanding about like how to deal with these things so that the certain issues or certain stress don't get the best of you to make you turn into these mental illness situations that we kind of like see all the time. And man, my heart goes out to anybody who deals with it,
Right.
um, especially on a spectrum where it becomes like nationally known or it becomes something a part of the news, man. Like I'm like, man, because for me, I'm a pretty private person. So sometimes if I'm dealing with things, like I'm cool with like dealing with it in a private manner, not necessarily by myself, but in a little more of a private manner. So sometimes
Right.
for celebrities or people who deal with it, and you think to yourself, man, like the world gotta know. And then some people don't know how to have empathy for a person. I'm not saying sympathy, but more like empathy, like
Right.
to actually kind of care about them, maybe to send prayers up to them or to do things that can help them maybe like, work their way out of this situation and get back to the normalcy that they're, like seeking or looking for that they're used to. And so, man, I'm with you, man. I try to keep a good foundation of people that I talk to, man. I have a small crew of friends, man. Like you said, more like brothers,
Okay.
and that I talk to, and it's not every day, but I think we talk enough that it's a good outlet. The podcast is one, and
Right.
then my set of friends that I have, that are I've known them through music, but it's like the relationship is beyond music. Like I think we all kind of help each other keep like a good balance that doesn't feel like it's only driven by our occupation or our career. So man,
Right.
I'm grateful for that, and I can only imagine what it is to like deal with some of them things. But actually, COVID affects. I think it's affected us all because I'm a person who's like toured for 10 plus years, man, and it's like now like I sit at home and I just have daydreams about being on a
Yeah.
stage, man, and like
Yeah.
having like that experience, man, like kind of pulled up from under me, man. It kind of makes me feel like and so it can send you into a place, man. But if I try to be positive or try to work on new crafts or kind of try to make sure I'm not just busy myself, but like make myself be aware that it can come back, or if it's not the end of the world, and there's still other things that can be just as invigorating or fun, or that can, bring those same kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not necessarily pleasantries, but that can bring about the same emotions. Yeah. That I enjoy from doing that.
Right.
So,
Right. So yeah, so definitely so let's kind of just run down some of the things that will help cope with it, instead of like I like talking about it, I do, but I also like try to give some sort of solution that some people can
okay.
do, you know. So like you said, staying busy, getting hobbies. Hobbies are
Yeah.
cool,
Yep. I,
um, exercising,
yeah.
reaching out. So
Exercising.
so like you said, a support group is super big. It's super important. A support group, like you said,
Hmm.
you had a group of brothers, man, that really keep you grounded, that you can really reach out to and talk to, and just kind of unload everything. So that's definitely, I think, one of the most important factors, having a good support group behind you.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that support group, I know some people have like support groups available like through their churches
D-
or through certain programs and stuff like that. And if you have like a local church that you go to, like try to reach out and figure out if there's like a support group that can
Definitely.
help you, be accountable, and that can help you be accountable and help you, walk through these life situations without feeling like you're by yourself. Because, even
Right.
if you got a spouse, sometimes I think a man and woman can both say that, maybe she don't understand or maybe he don't understand. So I definitely can understand where that comes from. So, yes, small groups, they call them small groups.
Okay.
That's a term that's used pretty often.
Okay.
So I think that's another way, to try to do it through your church, like you said, working out. Um, man, I can say this, man, like a thing that's
Yeah.
pretty therapeutic for me is I like to get in the car and drive.
Yeah.
Drive
Like,
around. Yeah.
yeah. So especially after I have worked, and since I do music for a living, and I've been and played music, if it's been a long day, it's like a work situation where it's been a long day. Let's say I've done like 8, 10 hour day doing music, and I'm driving home. Man, I will pull these AirPods out, and I will literally just drive, and only thing I'm going to hear is the road.
Yeah.
And man, it's such tranquility and peaceful for me, and it allows me to like actually literally just kind of filter through my thoughts, and it's just me. It's like me and God,
Yeah.
and it's a good time for me to like filter through things and
So that's kind of like,
decompress.
good. There you
Right.
go. So that's like you pausing, taking a breath, and
Yeah.
self-talking a little bit. So okay, so that's one of the things too that I wanted to bring up. Self-talking and pausing and taking a breath. And that's the same thing. You get in the car, and that's basically what you're doing. And one more thing, that y'all are gonna think I'm crazy, but one more thing that I found that is super good for depression, man, is get you a coloring book. Coloring. I ain't never seen nobody mad coloring ever. I'm not talking about no
That's not
Bert
a
and
bad
Ernie
idea.
Sesame Street. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no, no.
I'm talking about like a intricate coloring book, man. And
Yeah.
I promise you, I challenged any one of y'all to name one person mad coloring ever.
Yeah,
I
I
I
can't say
can't
it
think
because
of none.
only thing I can think about is reading Rainbow, and I never remember them being negative.
Hey,
That,
nobody, bro.
but the thing is, I mean, you say that may sound a little bit crazy, but actually it doesn't, because to really be honest, man, we all have to have that something that gives us that release. Or it gives us that outlet, I guess is a better way to put it. Like, I know for me, like my deal growing up was trains. Like, I love it. Like, to this day, I love trains. Like, I don't know what it is about trains. Like, I love them. Like, when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was be a locomotive engineer. Like, that's literally all I wanted to do. I remember even in high school, um, I didn't like talk to a lot of girls in high school. Well, one, because I knew that if I went too far with a girl and I got her pregnant, my parents was gonna kill me. But then two,
Then you're
it
gonna need
was
to take a
like,
train.
right, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, it's like, wait a minute, if I get this girl pregnant, then that's gonna make it hard for me to go to college. And if I can't go to college, or if I struggle through college, then that's gonna make it hard for me to get my degree, and then I won't be able to drive train. And that was just not worth it to me. So,
Wow.
even, and that was like my motivation all through school. And I got my degree in communications, because when I started college, I went in as an engineering technology major, because I was like, man, I got to get this engineering degree so I can be this locomotive engineer. I got in them classes, man, and classes was kicking my behind. I ain't gonna lie, that calculus and all that different kind of math. And I went and talked to a guy that worked for the railroad. He was like, dude, you ain't gotta have no engineering degree. Just get a college degree. Bet. I changed my major. I
Oh
dropped
wow.
that major the next day. I went undecided. The next semester I got into communication. But anyway, I say all that to say this. Like, even before the pandemic hit, like, one thing that I would always do after I had a hard day's work, kind of like King was saying, was just drive around and not listen to any music. But for me, driving around was going to the train yards and literally watching the trains. Like, when I lived in Amarillo, uh, I knew where all the tracks were. So I would go to the outskirts of town, because I used to love to watch the trains get up to, like, what they call track speed. So Amarillo's flat and open on the outskirts. So once they got to the flat open planes, they'd hit 60, 70 miles an hour. And I used to love to go out there and watch that. Like, I was out there so much, the guys even knew my truck, and they would just always blow the horn whenever they
Oh
saw me.
wow.
So,
Oh
I
wow.
mean, while coloring may sound crazy, I completely understand, because there are people today that cannot understand why I love trains so much, but I do. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that unconventional but very effective outlet in times like these. And really, with a time like 2020, or going into 2021, I would say, no matter how unconventional that outlet is, as long as it's not illegal,
Yeah.
go for it. Because, we will probably never see times like this in our lifetime. At least I pray we don't.
I hope not.
So, do whatever especially, and see, especially Drew, you got young kids. So for you, it's totally different than for somebody like myself that is single with no kids. Like, I have my stresses, but my stress is nothing like a married man with young children going through a time like this. I cannot even identify. So, whatever gives a person that outlet, and literally keeps them sane, as long as it's not illegal and not hurting anybody, I say go for it. Because
Definitely.
you got to do what you got to do to keep your sanity in times like these, man. You really do. Y'all have anything else y'all wanted to add on that, man? My bad, I had to handle some technical difficulties.
No, no worries, man. No
Uh,
worries. We were just going over, I went over the different type of things that could stress you out
mhm.
during this whole COVID and just period in life. And me and Ken was just going through, some of the things that you can do to help cope.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you didn't miss too much. That's
Okay.
just where we're at with it.
Okay. Well, that actually brings up the next topic, man. One thing that people have talked about during the quarantine and during COVID is like the effects that it has had on people's physical health. And I know and I guess you can tie this into mental health as well, because, especially I guess over the course of the last, 10, 15, 20 years, physical health has been a major focus, especially when you're talking about obesity and obesity weight or obesity related disease or illnesses like
Yeah,
diabetes
yeah.
and things like that. That's really been a main focus. So and Drew, you saw this, firsthand, what I dealt with when
Oh
it
yeah.
came down to my weight.
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember when I first met you, I don't know how much I weighed because I do not like to get on the scale, but I don't know how much I weighed when I met you, but I was big when I met you. And like I look at some of my pictures even now, and it's just like, wow. But going through that whole transformation for me, it really made me realize, where my mental health was, when I was this big dude to where I am now. And for me, I had to take accountability. I had to take responsibility because for years I struggled, being big. I struggled with the physical aspect of it, but I also struggled with the mental aspect of it. And I know a lot of that for me myself came from being in denial. And I was in denial about how bad a condition that I was. I was in denial about how bad things could get, physically. I was in denial about, how me being this big, I guess you could go ahead and say obese, how being this obese guy was, affecting the different aspects of my life. So um I, I guess I can't really point to one specific incident that really like where the light just clicked on. Well, yeah, I can, because I guess for me, and people ask me a lot of the times, what's the key to not only getting the weight off but keeping it off? And for me, I tell people all the time, you have to find a reason why. Like you have
Right.
to find,
Right.
why do you want to do this? Because if you're
Absolutely.
trying to lose weight for the wrong reasons, then you're not going to keep it off. And in the past, I would lose weight, trying to, man, if I lose weight, then my dating life will improve, or if I lose weight, this will get better over here, this and that and the other. But the dangerous part with that is if you're losing weight for, women or the opposite sex or whatever, then what's gonna happen when things don't go right with that opposite sex? Or even if you do get the person that you want, what's gonna happen when y'all hit a rough patch? First thing you're gonna do is gonna turn to food.
Right.
And I didn't even
Relax.
realize, yeah, exactly. And I didn't realize for me personally that food was like a comfort source for me. And I was like, there were times I would literally eat my emotions away. And so I had to take accountability and I had to say, like, okay, bro, you have to get a handle on this. And I remember I sat down one day and I told God everything I wanted out of life. I wanted, how I wanted to get married, how I wanted kids, how I wanted this job, and I wanted to do this and that and the other. I literally just poured my heart out. And I remember God brought this conversation from my old college professor, Dr. Brown, and God bless her soul. I remember it was 2005, and she got up in front of our class and she asked everybody what it is that they wanted out of life. And the majority of them, they wanted to get married, they wanted to have kids, they wanted to have this good job. And I remember her statement to us was, okay, well, if you're talking about getting married, getting married is a big step in life, one of the biggest ones you'll ever take. And you have to look at yourself and you have to say, okay, based on where I'm at right now, would I date me or would I marry me? And I remember God brought that conversation to me. So I get up and I walk to the restroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I say, okay, based on where I'm at physically, would I date me or would I marry me? And the answer was no. Based on where I'm at, financially, would I date me and would I marry me? And the answer was no, because whew, my credit was so bad they wouldn't take my cash. And
Mm,
it was like
mm.
based on where you're at professionally, would I date me and would I marry me? And the answer was no. So with the answer being no to all these questions, I knew I had to make some serious changes. And that's when the light clicked on. So, and then also that I also knew I wanted to put purpose behind it. I wanted to be like a source of inspiration that, hey man, you can do this. Like if anybody, if I can do this, anybody can do it. My bad, I just hit the table. So for me, that's really when the light kicked on. And that's really when I found the key to not only like losing weight and making this transformation, but like actually keeping it off. And that was the point where it was like, okay, even times when the nutrition would get old and I wanted a cheat meal, or if I was down about something and I wanted to get the junk food, I wanted the soda, it was like, no, I got a bigger purpose. You know, I'm working towards something bigger than
Right.
myself. That's what kept me going. So I guess without being too long-winded,
Well, I
um,
can I can I can actually testify on seeing you from, I don't know if it was probably like the the midpoint journey,
it was like it was
or
no,
was it beginning
you met
mid?
me. It was like it was kind of like at the beginning because I know like even before I was telling King yesterday, I know even before me and you became like really really cool, like
Right.
we would see each other at the gym and we kind of just speak and just go on. So it was like around that time. That was like at the beginning of it. And I used to steal workouts from you and Harold. I see y'all over there getting it. And I just used to like literally used to steal stuff from y'all. So,
Well, hey,
that's
that's an honor. I appreciate
yeah.
that. That's definitely honor. But let me ask you a question, because I
Mhm.
I saw how hard you work out. I saw your determination, and I saw the pounds just melting off. And you did it consistently and constantly. You step down, and it wasn't no like no quickly weight loss overnight. It wasn't anything crazy. You did it the
Right.
right way. But what you said earlier, that you were eating your feelings. Did you ever find out the root of that? Of
Yeah.
the Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
my bad. Keep going.
No, go. That was the question. Did you ever
Yeah,
find the root of that?
the root of me eating my feelings away, like when I was, and it's funny because when I was going through the transformation, like there were times I really didn't even understand why I was eating the way I was eating, and then I started putting two and two together. I realized that back then I didn't like myself. I did
Mm-hmm.
not like me. And as a result, it's like, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm depressed and I'm feeling down about this. I'm eating because I'm depressed, but I'm depressed because I'm eating. So it was like this vicious cycle. And
Yeah.
eventually I knew, I was like, okay, either you're going to have to turn away from the food, you have to find another way to have this outlet and process whatever your emotions or feelings or whatever it is that you're dealing with. You have
Mhm.
to find another way to deal with that, because if you keep going down this road, you're either going to get really sick and suffer from the diabetes and everything else. And I did not want to go down that road because I saw what my grandma dealt with
Right.
going down that road of diabetes. I literally saw my grandma deteriorate until the day she died. Like the last 8 years of her life, my grandma was miserable. Now she did not complain because she loved the kids and the grandkids, but my grandma was miserable the last 7 years of her life. I saw them, amputate toes. I saw them amputate a
Oh
foot.
yeah.
I saw them
Yeah.
amputate a leg. I saw them
Yeah.
amputate another foot. I saw her going through these surgeries and getting stunts put in her heart because the blood wasn't circulating properly. I saw my grandma go through all this and going through the dialysis, and I just knew that I did not want that to be me. And so, for me, it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, you know what? I'm not even worried about women. I'm not worried about dating. Like dating is off the table. I got a fixed road because
Right.
if I don't like me, how in the world can I expect somebody else to like me or even love me? So I got to take care of me first. So once I fixed all of that, that's when everything else started improving. And then I started noticing that I started feeling better about myself. I started like really liking myself. I started wanting to really take care of myself.
There you
I
go.
also I started noticing my memory was improving. I didn't realize how bad my memory was back then. Like I remember there were times where if I didn't work out for like a week, I felt that brain fog come through. And I mean, it was just all kind of
It,
things
it
that
definitely
just happened.
definitely gives you some clarity. It definitely gives you some
It
clarity.
does.
I want to ask both of you guys a question. I want to ask you
Hmm.
and King a question. And my brain is, forgive me,
You good, man.
forgive me. But
You good.
I 100% someone who feels like, okay, I'm big, but I love myself.
Mhm.
I'm big, but I love myself. You can't tell me anything. I'm happy. No body shaming. In which that's good and that's amazing that you
Right.
that you feel that way. However, are you healthy?
Mm. Yeah.
When can you ask that question? am I mean, what am I doing now? Am I not being sensitive to them feeling good about themselves? Or I mean, what where are we at? You know what I'm saying? Because you can't be healthy and still be, what are some of the hypertension, pre-diabetic, high blood pressure, all that stuff, and that comes with carrying extra weight. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so
Right.
for me, I'm all about, self-empowerment, great body image, but are you healthy? And that was my question. But when can you ask that, or can you ask that anymore?
Well, as somebody who was on both ends of the spectrum, I mean, I think it's appropriate to, ask that. Now, whether or not somebody's comfortable with asking themselves that is, something that's totally different. But, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, and I agree with you. I'm all about somebody feeling confident, and, no matter the skin you're in or however you want to put it. Like, if you're a big person, you're confident and you're happy with the way you feel, hey, do you. I just know for me, I wasn't happy with how I looked. I wasn't happy with how I felt. Right. And, there's a difference, and you're right. There's a difference between, saying, hey, I'm comfortable with, how I look and everything else, but are you healthy? And that's one thing that I think in the whole, like, no body shaming and everything else. I think sometimes we tend to overlook the health aspect of it. Now, I'm not saying you have to look a certain way, because Drew,
By no
just
means.
like I do, there's bigger people
Yeah.
that are healthier than some smaller people. So, the outside is not always, I guess, outside is not always a good indicator as a person's health level. But there is, at some point, we do have to ask ourselves that question. Okay, I get it, the no body shaming, appreciate where you're at in life. I get all that. But at the same time, is the way I'm living my life right now, is this healthy for me? Is this going to be something where it's going to help my life quality down the road? Because it's all good when you're in your 20s and your 30s and everything else, but what's going to happen when you hit your 40s? What's going to happen when you hit your 50s? What's going to happen when your metabolism starts slowing down naturally? What's going to happen when, gravity starts taking hold? Because these looks ain't going to last forever. So what's going to happen when, when the effects of the things that you're doing now and how you're living now, what's going to happen when those effects start to take hold later on in life? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. It's fine to live in the moment, but you also need to think about the future. And you also need to think, to me, you also need to think about other aspects of life.
Right.
That's just my. What about you, King?
Oh, to answer that. So for me, and I'm not saying this in a boastful manner, so please hear my heart and not necessarily the connotation in which it may sound. I've never had a weight issue, so I can't. Okay, so but I can speak to the understanding of self-esteem.
Right.
And what I would also say to that is, first of all, most of the time in our lives, we need people who will be good accountability partners. Man, listen, I want to say this for everybody going for it. Accountability and responsibility are two of my favorite words.
Yes.
And like, I'm cool with friends checking me. Hey, King. Nah, like I work with my brother, and he's my younger brother. And sometimes he's in a situation where he's directing me. And like a guy asked me, hey, do you work with him? I'm going somewhere with this. He's like, well, do you and your brother work good together? He's your younger brother. I was like, yeah, because I'm cool with taking direction from people, because I know when I'm in situations and I'm directing, I want people to be okay with what I will be saying as far as what I'm looking for as a music director or whatever. And so in that situation, it's the same. I like to use the same principles in every situation, so I don't ever come off or looked at as hypocritical. So I I don't think it's about body shaming. I think it's about people being in your corner that can actually be like, hey, come here. I just want to kind of encourage you. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want to tell you how to do it, but hopefully I'm leading by example, so that now if I say something, you don't look at me like, well, it's easy because you work out. Well, it's easy because you've never been fat, or you've never been skinny, or you've never dealt with this problem. And I'll be like, I get that, but I'm just trying to encourage you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. And I think if we can speak to people from a honest point of encouragement, and also if people can be better about, like Rose said earlier, about understanding their reality. Acknowledging your reality don't mean you agree with it. It means that you have to understand it so that you can know what to do with it if you want it to change. But
Right.
you know, I tell people all the time, man, acknowledging anything doesn't mean you agree with it. It don't mean that you're giving it the power, or it becomes over you, or it takes control of you. No, you know what? All right, cool. King, uh, you weigh 198. That's too big for your body frame. All right, find a way to get it down to 175. All right, cool. I acknowledged it. That don't mean that I, you know what I'm saying, have a problem with 198, but it may not be the healthiest for a dude, you know, of my size. So, all right, cool. Let me figure out how I can work through that. Let me ask some people, or if somebody be like, hey, man, you know, if a close friend be like, man, I'm not used to you being this big. I mean, you know, how do you feel about it? Like, if he asked me like that, then I don't think it would make me feel bad, because then I would be like, it would actually make me think. So for me, I think to answer your question, Drew, I just think if we are good about the level of accountability and responsibility, and understanding that acknowledging your situation from a standpoint of somebody's encouragement to like help you get to a better place, then you can actually, you know, kind of grow from that and like try to be better as a person so that you can live longer. And I'm not saying that we got to eat, you know, drink green drinks every single day. Cause I mean, I'm cool with eating $100 steak a couple times a year. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I got to eat it all the time, but I'm not going to eat you know, $18 steak. But I definitely like to do it. At least I'm going to eat some good, you know, beef or something like that. But,
Yeah.
and, you know, I think we're all pretty, you know, a little low key health nuts. So I don't do the red meat like all the time. You know, I don't just randomly go to Chipotle and get a steak bowl. You know what I'm saying? That's not my MO, because I enjoy in my, you know, in my mid-30s being able to kind of, you know, look smaller and younger, and I'm cool with that. And I'm doing it with the thought process of, like you said, bro, like letting it transfer over into my like 40s and 50s, man, because you know, I want to be able to keep up with everybody, not just kids. I want to keep up with other 50-year-olds when I'm 50. Be like, all right, cool, yeah, I could run a half marathon. What's up?
Definitely.
You know,
exactly.
So for me,
And
you know,
again, I'm sorry.
no, that's it. That's
Okay.
it. That's it.
But
No.
and again, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying that there's a certain body type people should have. I'm
Yes,
not
absolutely.
condemning anybody. I'm not saying you should look like Barbie.
Yeah,
None of that. I'm not
totally.
saying any of
Totally.
that. I'm just all I'm asking is, are you healthy?
Yeah,
Period.
Yeah.
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 You know what I mean?
And,
So
I'm with you.
exactly, I'm with you 100%. And that's the
To
thing is,
each
it's
his
not.
own.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about looking a certain way. Like for me, I know when I started, I just I wanted to look good, but it wasn't necessarily about being quote unquote skinny, because by my body frame, I'm never going to be quote unquote skinny. I don't want to be skinny.
yeah, neither will I.
But I
You know what I'm
think it's
saying? I
about
just
being toned. It's about being
right,
toned,
right,
not
right.
necessarily skinny. I think the word to you, and I think that's what I was meaning when I said the like being, if I was 198 and my
Hmm.
toneness says be 175, then let's just be honest and say, no, I'm not saying 198 is bad, because I'm not calling anybody else. And then there's a picture on Instagram, or I found it on Google one time, where they showed a woman that weighed the same weight, but because of their height and statues and
Yeah,
Yeah.
body type,
Right.
it
yeah.
made them all look like different. I
Hmm.
think it was like
Yeah.
142,
Yeah.
and because of their heights and all of that, they all look different. And I even showed my wife that one day, and she was like, "Oh wow, I didn't
Yeah.
think of it like that." And I'm like, "Yeah." So sometimes it's good, like you said, to not try to shame anybody's size frame or anything like that, because we're definitely all built different. We all have different like muscle masses on how we carry muscle and how we
Yes.
mass up when we have, you know, lesser body fat. So at the end of the day, I think it is about 100% being healthy, because it's
Mhm.
like a dude that's 6'7", LeBron would never look good being my weight.
Right.
He would
Exactly.
never look good. He would look,
Exactly.
you think he's dying. You'd be like, LeBron,
Yeah.
is
He
he
would look
dying?
sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think, like you said, Drew, I like to not let anybody feel like we're crapping on them. It's
Right, exactly.
about
No,
it's
no,
about
no,
the
we're
health.
not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we don't want, we definitely don't want to convey that message that, oh, if you look a certain way. No, 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 we're not saying that. We're
Right.
just saying, be as healthy as you can be. Because like I say, again,
absolutely.
I've seen Drew, you've seen them as well. We've seen bigger people who are healthier than smaller people. So absolutely, we're not saying you got to be a certain size, you got to look a certain way. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. You have to do, when it comes down to your health is wealth, point blank, period. You have to take care of your health for you. You can't worry about what other people are going to say. When you go to the gym, you can't worry about if other people are going to stare at you when you're working out. You can't worry about other people. And I'm talking about spouses, kids, whatever. Now, you can take their input into account. That's fine. Right. But at the end of the day, you have to do what is best for you. Now, when it came down to other people holding me accountable, like ultimately it was up to me. But it was easier for me to be honest with myself because, man, I'll be honest with you, man. My mom is like brutally honest. And there were times where my mom straight up told me, like, look, son, I'm concerned about where you're headed because, look, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but health-wise, you're not healthy. And I remember one time my eating habits were so bad. I had like these dark patches on both of my cheeks. And because I was eating such a high concentration of fat and saturated fat and preservatives and processed food and everything else, like you could just look at my face and tell I was not a healthy person. And well, in addition to the body. But anyway, my mom was like brutally honest. My mom has always been honest with me, like even from a child, like no matter what aspect of life. When it came down to have to talk about the birds and the bees and sex and everything else, my mom and my dad were just like, look, this is what happens during sex, X, Y, and Z. This is what can happen as far as STDs and pregnancies. They didn't hold back. So, for me, my whole family is like that. So for me, it was easier for me to be brutally honest with myself and accept that reality. Now, I'll be honest with you. There were people that had their comments. There were people that asked their questions, and I could tell they were trying to be funny and sarcastic. And, at the end of the day, you got to just kind of, you have to learn how to just say, you know what, blank that. I'm not going to pay attention to that. Now, that part I did have to work on because when I was younger, like people did used to make fun of my weight all the time, but I started getting to the point where whenever I would make friends with somebody, I would automatically start looking for flaws within this person. So if and when this person turned their back on me and started making their little comments, I'm gonna hit you where it hurts, and I'm gonna try to hurt your feelings. Like,
so you automatically playing the Jonesing game, huh?
Yeah. So because
wow.
I didn't trust people. I did not trust people. So this person may have had the best of intentions, and it's cool. Like at the end of the day, hey, cool. But I'm not gonna let this person get too close. When it came down to dating, and I didn't really talk to a whole lot of women because it was like, oh, she's not gonna talk to me, or if she does talk to me, she's just gonna find a guy that looks better than me.
But that's more your self-esteem.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's more
there
your
you
self-esteem.
Go. There you go. So for me, I knew I had so much, and that's what this transformation did. It started showing out all these other areas of life that I had to work on, and all these other areas where I had these faults. So it allowed me to improve overall as a man, as a friend, and as one day a husband. So, because there were times where there were young women who I talked to and I dated, and stuff will be going well. And it's like, okay, you know what? I'm starting to like this girl. So, you know what? Eventually she's probably going to hurt me. So, you know what? Let me hurt her before she hurts me. And I'm just going to cut it off. And that's what I did. And I had no regard for their feelings. And it wasn't like I was sitting out to sleep with these women and then cut them loose. I was never that guy. A lot of women I didn't even sleep with before I cut them off. It's like, no, I'm starting to like this girl. She going to hurt me eventually. I'm about to just,
you cut them off because you were protecting your feelings.
I call myself protecting my feelings. And you know what? You could probably say I missed a blessing along the way. I'm sure I did.
Maybe.
But, at the end of the day, this transformation is helped me be a better man across the board. And I thank God every day that I went through it. And I thank God for the hardships, because now I can look to actually connect with somebody, whether it's a friendship or a relationship. I can look to actually connect with somebody and not just, be acquainted with this person, so to speak.
Right.
But you know what? It's funny you say that, because I think that's a self-esteem issue that more people deal with that is not just weight based. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
and you know what? Sometimes I think it's good, if you have to, I'm not saying for everybody, it's good to like you was able to like work through that without maybe going to counseling. But sometimes go talk to a person you don't know.
Yes,
Go talk to
absolutely.
somebody you don't know that you're going to pay for, because they're looking like, well, man, after you pay and leave, I'm not going home to my wife to talk about this, because she would get
Yeah.
on my nerves, because
Mhm.
I would talk about 20 patients a day, and that would probably get on their nerves. She'd probably be like, hey, but can you talk about us or something? So at the end of the day, like, I would encourage somebody, if that's what you need,
Yeah.
and like you had your mom, and your mom was like a safe place. And some people may have a close sibling or a close relative, or that brother or friend that's just kind of been dope, cool with them for an extended amount of time. But it's like, man, talk to somebody who will like actually like kind of push that envelope with you, that you won't feel pushed in a corner when they push the envelope.
Oh,
Like you
don't
said,
get me
your
wrong.
mom.
I didn't have a lot of these conversations with my mom. My mom, she was just like, "Hey, look, you don't look healthy. Like you snore." Like when
You
I
know
remember
what?
when I was staying with them, I was
But you
snoring in my
accepted
sleep.
it though.
Yeah, exactly,
You
exactly.
accepted what she said, and that's kind of what
Right.
I'm getting to. Because you know what's funny, sometimes when we talk to professionals, we feel like they got it all together, or they know it all, so we
Yeah,
tend to accept what
Yeah.
they say, versus somebody who would be like, well, you don't know. I mean, you ain't never doing this. I mean, who paid you to talk to me like this? Or what college have you been in? What studies have you been? When have you studied abroad? But
That's just the
like
whole
when you
point. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm
but
sorry.
like it's something about when people talk to a professional. I think it's like they feel like they can just kind of like let themselves loose. And I
Yeah,
know movies present that,
yeah,
speaking
yeah.
to a therapist is like the most beautiful thing. But I'm not saying it's the greatest for everybody. But I think it can be helpful for somebody who may have that blockage with people that they're common with. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
For me, a big person for me that helped me throughout that was my cousin Terenzo. Like that dude. Now that was a guy that like I truly felt like he's a lot like y'all. Like I could tell him something, and I know I'm not going to be judged. Now there were times where he would just be like, "Hey, bro, you got to step your game up. Like okay, you got it together here, but you got to step your game up over here. It ain't about just you focused on this on this aspect. Okay, perfect example was when I started losing all this weight and everything else. I didn't automatically go buy new clothes. Like I was trying to be thrifty. So, there were times where like my clothes was looking a little bit slouchy. And he's like, hey, bro, you gotta switch that up, bro. Like you can't walk out of the house looking like that. You have to change your appearance. That's fine that you've lost the weight, but keep your clothes up with it. Don't try to be cheap. You're gonna have to spend money. Invest in yourself, bro. And I mean, it was just little stuff like that. And it's like at the time, it didn't really feel good hearing it because nobody wants to hear when they're slacking. But I knew I needed it. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I found myself, going to buying new clothes and new shoes and everything else. And then that's when, just little things like that. So King, you're absolutely right. I 100% agree. Now, me, I didn't have money for a therapist. So I guess in a lot of ways, he was my therapist, him and Jesus. So, but if you have the money, if you have the resources, absolutely talk to somebody because you will go through times when you want to give up. You will go through times where you feel like it's not worth it. You'll have times where you question, why am I doing this? Because it's gonna hurt. And I ain't talking about just physically. There are gonna be times when emotionally you just drain. There's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
times when you question, why in the world did I let myself get this bad? You're gonna feel like quitting. I mean, you're gonna go through a roller coaster of emotions. Like I'm not even, there's a saying out there that goes, if you want change, you must embrace pain. You have to deal with pain when it comes to any kind of change in life because you're
Mhm.
either gonna deal with the pain of discipline or you're gonna live with the pain of regret down the road because you didn't do what you could have done, 20, 30 years ago. So you got to
Yep.
pick which pain you want to deal with. So that's
Yep.
just the way I really kind of started looking at it. So I was like, well, man, let me just deal with the pain of discipline now and then that way I can do, I don't have to deal with it later. So, and I thank
Yep.
God every day. So,
Another way people say choose your hard.
yes,
Being discipline is hard, or being lax is hard, because it's going to be hard results. Being lax, but the hard work on discipline brings about the certain results. So choose your hard. Everything in life is hard, but
yes,
there's a reward to hard work, or there's a reward to hardly doing anything. I mean, there's not a reward to hardly doing
Absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely. And I know, and I say this for men, because I know a lot of guys out there, they start wanting to lose weight and get in the gym because they want to look a certain way for the women. Don't worry about women when you're on this journey. Cut that out.
That's for you.
Now, okay, you know what?
For yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do it for you. Now, if you want to have women be a source, not the main
squeeze
source.
them in anyway, huh?
But yeah, if you want to have them be a source of motivation, then go for it. But don't let them be the main source. You let yourself be the main source. And well, for me, and even if you're not like a spiritual or religious person, I looked at it as, you know what, God gives me one body and one life. It's up to me to maximize it. So I looked at it from that standpoint. Then I looked at it from myself, like, what kind of life do I want? Okay, cool. This is what I got to do. How do I want my clothes to fit? Okay, I want them to fit like this. How do I want to, I want to feel better about myself, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a sense of accomplishment. Okay, I did that. Cool. Now, for me, dating was like the last thing on the list. And, let's just be honest. I mean, as a man, I'm not going to go chase after a woman that I'm not physically attracted to. Let's just, because society, we like to put this deal out because it sounds good. What's on the inside that's important. Yes, what's on the inside is the most important. But also, it's the outer attraction. There has to be physical attraction.
Got to be some attraction. Absolutely, yes.
Because
I agree with you 100%.
Exactly, because nobody's going to chase after somebody they're not physically attracted to. Let's just be honest. I mean, we're guys. Let's just be honest. And women are not going to give a guy a chance that they're not physically attracted to. Let's just be honest on that. It's the physical attraction that's going to draw you to this person, but it's who this person is on the inside is what's going to keep them around. That's the thing we have to look at. Yes, what's on the inside is the most important, but man, don't get it twisted. Looks matter, and how you present yourself matters. Men and
presentation is everything, man. Listen,
absolutely.
Got to get to that barbershop. Man. Yeah. I got to stay on point. So man. Besides everything else, and I mean, you can look good with a $2 shirt. It's not the shirt, it's you. I make the shirt look good.
There you go.
$2,
baby.
Hey,
$2. Hey, $2 to 200 to 2,000.
You look pretty nice at it, man. Those weightlifting arms look good.
Oh, here you go, man. Okay.
Hey, man, Drew. I'm telling you, I'm trying to get like Drew, dog. You see them shoulders? You see them shoulders?
Stop it, man. Y'all embarrassing me, man. Y'all.
But all right, let's move on to our last topic, and we'll keep this one kind of short. I know King brought something up, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. Kyrie Irving has did something that you don't see most professional athletes do. He's basically like taking, I guess you could call it like a leave of absence from the Nets, and he's not playing this week. King, I know you have a little bit more background on this than I do, so kind of explain, what's going on.
I'll be quick. So I heard or I seen, because in the sports, that he's possibly taking this leave of absence because of social reform, and I think that's admirable. But I think it's a lot of ways you can go about it. They said he's already done social reform. He's like giving $1.5 million to like the WNBA players because of the season or because of something that was going on. I'm not sure in totality. I know he gave $1.5 million. He's given like a lot of money to the state of New York for the COVID and workers being out and different stuff. And so, I mean, he's given a couple $1 million of his money to social reforms and things, social inequality and all of that. I just think, in a work situation, if you don't want to work no more, just put your 2-week notice in, just understand like what comes with that. But I think, me personally, I think he could actually play basketball and continue to make almost $200 million he'll make over the course of these 4 years. And he can even do more. I'm not saying the $2 million he's already given now can't do great, but if he makes $200 million, pay his taxes, put a little in his pocket, he still could probably give like another 10 or 15 million and still be cool. So if he's doing it for social reform and stuff like that, then that is a mega kudos. But, if he's just at the crib chilling and not being accountable, that's my word again, and responsible enough to say, hey, I want to take a back seat and like not play this year to focus on this, then like let that be. And just understand. I think he's trying to have his cake and ice cream too, or maybe he's trying to figure out how to work through it. But that's a conversation you need to have. And that's all I say to that. I mean, we're adults. We know how that situation goes.
So what is it? So is it just the fact that we don't know if he's doing it for social reasons or if he just chilling at the house? So is that the big deal?
Yeah, all we know is it's a leave of absence, and then he was caught on Instagram at his sister's party without a mask. I think more than 15 people, and that's against the rules. That's against your work rules. So it's starting to look, a little less maybe like it's like certain reasons or whatever. There's no reason that I've seen in any headlines for the leave of absence. And so.
Well, and it kind of goes back to that accountability and responsibility thing. Like, it's one thing if you're doing it for social reform, and I get it. I mean, but at the end of the day, even if you're doing it for social reform, as a professional athlete, professional athletes, they play when they don't feel like playing. They get treatment when they don't feel like getting treatment. They lift when they don't feel like lifting. They watch film when they don't feel like watching film. Anytime you're a professional at anything, you don't have to be a professional athlete. If you're a professional, trash man, I mean, all of us, if we're professionals at something, you have to handle your responsibility when you don't feel like handling it. It's just with a professional athlete, they're just in front of the cameras and the mics 24/7. So, but with Kyrie doing this, and now he's been caught at this party, it really kind of starts to beg the question, like, okay, well, dude, do you really even want to play basketball? And King, like you said, if you don't want to play basketball anymore, okay, well, cool. You need to really sit down and think about what you want to do. And if you don't want to play no more, just let the Nets know, and y'all go y'all separate ways, and that way he can focus on social reform or whatever it is that he wants to do. But it goes down to the fact of you sign this contract. Anytime you sign a contract with the team, they expect you to uphold your end of the bargain. Now, of course, he may not play every game, and injuries and things like that. They get all that. That's already understood. But they expect you to be there and be available when you can play. And it's all about handling your business. And for me, when I see things like that, it's kind of just like, okay, well, what does this do? What's going on with this guy? I mean, he may have some real, he's got some issues going on.
He makes $500,000 a game because they said nice. if he has to be out in quarantine because of the being out at the party or whatever, he will miss per game is 172, like 1/72 of each check. So it's the checks are just split by each thing, and they were saying that's $500,000, bro,
per game. Wow,
per game, bro. Listen, if I could make that, I'd play one game and chill. But no, let me quit lying. I'd play them all.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, if the money is not a problem, then don't go make it. But at least create some accountability and figure out what you want to do.
Now, one thing I will say, if it's social reform he wants to accomplish, this goes back to, even when LeBron and them, thought about leaving the bubble last year, and they talked to President Obama, and he let them know, hey, man, you can bring more awareness if you go ahead and play the game, because now you have a voice, you have a bigger voice, it can be magnified, and you can push awareness towards all these social issues or things that are going on in the world. So for me, if it's social reform that he really wants to focus on, to me, it seems like the best thing for him to do would be to play. But also, I understand, withdrawing your services and letting people know that, hey, at the end of the day, it's us who drives the revenue. So look, I get both points. It's just for him in his particular situation, I think, it's just one of those things where he's got to figure out which way he wants to go. And I think and it looks like he's struggling with that now. This is just outside looking in. But it just looks like he's got some stuff he's got to work out.
I'll say this last thing and we can go home, man. Well, I'm already at home, but we can end it and we can catch up next week. It said the dude Warnock, who won Georgia, said that when people started wearing his shirt and started saying Black Lives Matter and a few other things, when the WNBA players did it, in a matter of a day, he had earned like an extra $5,000 or $10,000. He had got like 3,500 followers in like one day from one game or a few games of people seeing them talking about voting Georgia a certain way. And so it's like, that ought to show you that, you know, whether you feel like it or not, man, it's a voice, and everything can't be done overnight. So it's like you can keep playing and keep using your money, because the more you play and the more money you make it do even greater change. Because like you said, LeBron is gonna keep making money, but now he's talking about getting a group of owners to get Kelly Leffner, however you said, trying to get her out as a co-owner. But LeBron can't do that if he quit playing and don't have enough dollars to like actually make that happen, man. Because you know, money talks and everything else walks in those kind of segments. So that's all I have.
All right,
Drew. What about you, Drew? You got any lasting take home points?
No, I guess just to recap, man, as far as depression, the things to do, you can color. You can
yeah.
But to and I do, and again, going back to the "Are you healthy?" comment, by no shape, form, or fashion am I saying, you know, you got to look a certain way. My question is asking yourself, are you healthy? Period.
Are you healthy?
Absolutely. Are you healthy? And in every aspect, physically, mentally, are you healthy? You know.
So you gotta hold yourself. You gotta hold yourself. What, King?
Accountable.
Accountable.
There you go.
Accountable. Accountable.
Hold yourself accountable and be responsible.
Yes,
and remember, we ain't doing it. We ain't saying you got to look a certain way. Be healthy in all aspects. Seriously. Be accountable, be responsible, and be healthy. Well, that's all I got to say. This has been episode 2 of the Brothas Being Brothers podcast. We thank y'all from the bottom of our hearts for joining us on this ride. We thank you for pulling up, kicking it with us. Follow us on Instagram at Brothas Being Brothers podcast. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, drop them in the DMs. Rated PG, preferably. And so. Thank you to the Lord above for giving us the gifts, talents, and the resources to do this. Thank y'all for tuning in and kicking it with us. And we'll be back. Come back next week. We'll be right here, fellas.
Yes, sir. Peace.
See you.
Remember, do your best and let God handle the rest. Be blessed.